So hello, everybody. Welcome to our little Zoom room today. Today is the last of the Sacred Female Rising. I believe I'm the last presenter, so it's an honor to also give it a closing. Before we jump in, I would love to give thanks for Julian here for all his immense efforts on driving the caravan on and offline. My coffee machine just went off. And I would love to give thanks also for Mira for giving us the space and the time and the teachings to be able to move forward. Thank you, coffee machine. And all of you for being here. So my name is Sandi, and some of you know me. We shared Medicine Woman training with, and some have joined my work. And just a quick intro, I come from Lebanon, but I live and I work in the Netherlands now. And my work is with Kambo ceremonies, which is Amazonian frog medicine, sacred medicine, and women's circles, sacred ceremonies, and Shakti dance, which is a mix of yoga and dance. And in fact, these things that have made a big part of my life and a big part of myself actually do come from my own journey, which is the heroine's journey. And I am so happy to be sharing this with you today. And I would like to ask actually, who knows Joseph Campbell with a raise of hands? Okay. Who knows the hero's journey? Cool. Who knows Maureen Murdoch? Yeah. Who knows the heroine's journey? All right. Well, I'm glad to be telling you a little bit about it, and I hope that this can also ripple out. So Joseph Campbell is an amazing author and a mythologist. He has wrote The Hero's Journey, which is actually a very concise structural storyline where most of the books that we read and the movies we watch actually follow that. And he wrote then The Hero's Journey. And then he had Maureen Murdoch as his student. And she's also a psychiatrist. And she loved his work, but she said, okay, hold on. I love what you're doing, but we're women. And I love the journey that you go through, but it's not the same as ours. So with his blessing and actually as her own journey and with studying with her patients in her own psychiatrist clinic, she came up with The Heroine's Journey, which is a really awesome book. It's that I would really invite you to read. And I will share some bits and pieces from this book today, try to weave it in on some of the stories we know, share a little bit from my own story, and we'll see how it goes. So the reason why Maureen Murdoch also wrote about this book is because of her own feminine wound. And she found that this is also very parallel to the feminine wound in society and in culture. And with her patients, she could see that somehow most of women also go in that same cycle. And generally it is a 10-phase cycle, but for simplicity's sake, I've put it down to 8 cycles. And if you would like, I would later share it also on the Facebook event. And basically, any story starts with, there's many undertones to all of this. Also, there's the basics of alchemy, right? So when you have 2 different substances, and then when they meet and they stay together for a while, and then they separate, and then that gives another 3rd element and what you do. So it's really all these things, which I will touch a little bit on today. And so most of us from our own personal journeys, we would know that there's some kind of crisis that happens every once in a while. Something knocks on our door. And this crisis often, it depends when you start to recognize it, or it depends that you ride this roller coaster often, how you take this crisis. And of course, its intensity. This crisis is our own healing. This crisis actually is our own initiation. What happens is that when we go through this crisis, we go through these cycles where we are going into the underworld, we are ripping pieces of ourselves. And this is part of the initiation. And then the ascension comes when we are in that point, we merge with our higher sense, our higher self, and our higher sense of purpose. And the ascension comes back and we go up to it. And the feminine journey, basically, it's very much about going deep into the soul, going deep into the body. And the masculine journey is very much going out and about and into the spirit. So there's no way that these journeys can be the same. So I'll start with explaining a little bit about the cycle, and we start with phase number 1, which is that the heroine separates from the feminine. The journey starts so, and often it's when the heroine sees and judges and rejects things in her own mother. And often, which means that she sees and judges and rejects parts of her own self too. And anything that's more of a marginalized role in society. So then the split happens and she starts to move away from it. And actually we see this in fairy tales or in Disney movies, for example, because Belle from Beauty and the Beast does not have a mother. Cinderella does not have a mother. Pocahontas does not have a mother. Snow White doesn't have a mother, but there's the evil stepmother. So there's something there which shows that that split is actually called the mother-daughter complex. And this is when the woman makes that separation from her own feminine. And then she does not want to grow up to become her mother. So then she goes to identify with her father. Now, before we move to the next stage, there's the part where what kind of mother did she have? She could have a good mother or a bad mother. But both cases, the woman needs to make this journey. A good mother could be, for example, such a great mother, but she gives so much love, so much protection that it starts to get smothering, and then the heroine wants to move away. Or the mother has given such abandonment that there was anyways not a strong connection, and then the heroine wants to move away. So whether the relationship is positive or not, the cycle continues. And an important part that is also a trigger for the cycle is there's families, especially mothers, give certain ways of how we are supposed to be raised. And when we don't like that, we need to find it out ourselves. We need to have our own stories, our own mistakes, our own sexual experiences, and not what someone told me not to do. So this is a lot of the things where you hear happening in this. So merging all of this, we go into the second point, which is that the heroine now identifies with the masculine. And that means that she abandons feminine values, the feminine way of life, and then she looks for a different path. So she doesn't want to be told what to do, or she doesn't want to live the life that her parents thought that she would be a doctor or a president or a nurse or whatever. She wants to do it her own way, a different way. And generally that is the masculine way. And so this act is also where the heroine places her power in the masculine power, which probably also means that in the patriarchy and in the system that we generally live in, which is work hard, do it, be successful. So when she abandons the feminine, this is the one she goes into. And of course, the woman can most often put her dad as the idol, but it could be that he's a good father or he's a bad father. So there is also this, and generally the masculine, if it's not the father, it's the system. So if she doesn't like either of her parents' ways, for example, the system is her way. I'm gonna become successful, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do that, and then that's where her goal is. And it is often good to do that. It's not too bad. But there's a small thing here, that when as women we grow up looking up to our fathers, there's that one element where the father, the masculine figure, can do this and he can do that and he can set all these goals, but he can take advantage of the feminine that he has in the house, whether a mother or a partner or a wife. And there is where he goes for being nurtured and being loved and being cared for. When the woman adapts this, she doesn't have that nurturing, and so much that she takes it a little bit out of herself too. So this actually starts to create some kind of emptiness. And when the woman does the whole, yeah, setting goals, being successful, all is good, and then needs that sense of home, which she doesn't know so much anymore, she then makes another step, which is the masculine way. I'll set up another goal. So men, when they feel the masculine energy, when they feel that there's some kind of emptiness, it's always filled with the next step, with the next goal. So they have it balanced. The woman doesn't. So all of these start to kind of make this weird alchemical process into where she feels that she is starting to get into her power and where not. And this takes us to the third point, which is the road and the trials. And often in stories, we say meeting the ogres and the dragons. So when you go on a journey, when you go from the known to the unknown, then there's like these dragons waiting for you so you can fight them. And there's these people coming to give you a poison apple. So you're being tested and a lot of things are coming your way. Some want to even kill the heroine. So she's really being tested here, and going into this unknown world where she has taken the decision to. But often it gets quite difficult because she is learning her tools in this moment, but it gets quite difficult. And it can create both internal and external struggles. So the external struggles could be that for a woman, she's finding it difficult to be successful in society because she's a woman and that's society, and what is success for them, what is success for her. So these are most of the challenges that this kind of heroine will face. Or also she could face much emotional conflict also, so the inner conflict that comes with it. And in the stories that we know, in the fairy tales, there's also then when they go this step to the unknown, which is Snow White runs into the forest because her stepmother asked for her heart. So then she goes and she gets lost in this forest. Cinderella goes through the same also. So there's this magical, mysterious forest or this place of unknown that the heroine goes to. So most of the times in the Disney stories, let's call them, this is when they go there. And then things come their way. Sometimes mentors come their way. In Snow White, for example, after she goes to the forest and she gets lost, then is the point where helpers come. So she meets the 7 gnomes. And this is where we're getting to. There's also an important part here, which is women access spirituality and wisdom through their bodies, and like quite literally through the body. When the body and the spirit are aligned for a woman, the messages are quite instant and very clear. But as the woman starts to put away her nurturing of her own self, then she's also numbing her own body, and that actually stops her spiritual development. So when she's running in the forest, she's running aimlessly because she is still running outside of herself. and running out of her own spiritual development, out of her power. And she's very much losing the touch of feminine completely at this point with herself. And the struggles and the things that are coming, all the challenges are part of the journey, and that take her to the fourth step, which is experiencing the boon of success. And actually, this is where the hero's journey ends. The hero's journey, like very shortly, like the Epic of Gilgamesh, if you know it, the Sumerian king. He leaves the kingdom, and then he has his friend Enkidu, and they go and they fight, and then they do this and that, and then he goes to get the flower for immortality, all story complete, and then he comes home. So generally, at this point, this is where the hero's journey ends. This is step number 4 in the heroine's journey, and I will read something about it here, where the writer says that the heroine has achieved everything she has set to do, but it has come at a great sacrifice to her soul. Her relationship with her inner world is estranged. She feels oppressed, but doesn't understand the source of her victimization. So what is happening here is she made it successful in the masculine world, but something is missing, and she just doesn't know what it is. And the most painful and difficult part, I would believe, at this point is she doesn't even have her way back into her inner world. And then she has to start to create that path, because in essence she doesn't know her inner world anymore. There's a little bit of a loss of sense of identity, because there's a lot of things that she had put aside and she thought that she doesn't need, and then has taken another way. So at this point, the the, the patriarchal or masculine successful way of her journey is great, but something is still missing. And generally, since she was out of touch with her body, at this point, the body can also give signals. So often we go in a burnout. Often we were doing and never really being. So that creates a burnout. Or not being so much in touch with her own body, women also can start to have irregular menstrual cycles. So the body is really giving messages like, okay, slow down, slow down, slow down. And here then is where spiritual loss happens. And that's the perfect key, because often is the feminine and the spiritual and the mystical and the emotions, they generally all come in this one bundle. And when you abandon it, then as far out as we can walk, we can hit the point where we feel like, okay, something is really missing here. So here is where the emergence can start. Now, when the cycle is done unconsciously, here is a spiritual loss. But when the cycle is done consciously, it's actually a spiritual awakening. So at this point, as per the heroine feeling that she did so much, but she hasn't achieved much because she does not feel whole, there comes the other part where the heroine knows very much that this was the masculine part of her journey, and she learns how to have a certain role in society. She learns how to have structure, how to put boundaries, how to have authority. So actually then she is quite open and quite receptive for her spiritual awakening that comes after. So at this stage, it depends how conscious or unconscious we are of the cycle to take us into the next. But both cases, there's some kind of spiritual activation happening. Is everybody following me so far? Yes? Okay. Okay. Just a moment. All right. So Then that was step number 4. And the 5th step, which comes after here, is the initiation, or the descent to the goddess, or the descent to the underworld. And the funny thing is that these 2 stages usually are when people will be hiding and they feel very weirded out of society because they don't feel like it, and they feel depressed, but they never really want to say it, because then what is society gonna say about you if you're depressed? Actually, if we had the knowledge about this stage, then we can understand that if you're feeling off, it's totally fine. It's totally okay, because it's part of the process, actually. And this depression or the spiritual loss is actually the start to the descent. And the peak of the crisis, or the peak of the initiation here, is when there's some kind of death in the family, or there's some kind of physical disability that happened, or the really strong loss of identity. And when this one reaches the peak, then the heroine realizes that she has the masculine traits that she has gained over the time have failed her. And then she needs to look back into the feminine. So then the feminine starts to already call her back. That sense of wholeness that she was quite longing for. And at this point, the heroine meets a goddess, or a goddess figure, any kind of feminine figure, that plays a very positive role, and feminine values of beauty and slowing down and grace and knowledge and wisdom from the body. And this role creates a kind of inspiration for our heroine to start to make her ascension. And the thing is that, for example, in the fairy tales, we get the fairy godmother that sometimes comes in rescue at this moment. So this is one of the ways of this cycle. Or there is also where it could also mean death, because in fact it means rebirth. So most of our heroines, they also die. Let's say Snow White is in a glass coffin in the forest, and Sleeping Beauty is dead and waiting for the prince or whatever. Also, Cinderella here is making a little of the descent, because although she has ran away from her evil stepmother and she dances with the king, but not as her true self. She lies to be someone that she isn't. And in fact, this is also part of descent to the underworld. So what happens is, I'm sure most of you know Inanna and her story of her descent. Yes? No. Okay, no problem, but look into it, please. It's a beautiful, yeah, it's a beautiful archetypal story. And she's a Sumerian goddess, and she has to go into the underworld for the mourning of some death. And as she goes step by step, she goes 7 gates. And every time the first door, let's say she takes off her jewelry, then she takes off her shoes, then she takes off her clothes, then she takes off the protective things on her chest until she is bare naked. And this, in fact, is ripping everything out, okay? Ripping all parts of our pieces out. And in my life, for example, so far, I've recognized most of this. And this really was in the time where I was feeling really off and I was feeling really depressed. And I had ripped everything, literally. I stopped even going to work. I stopped going out, speaking to friends. So I was completely naked, looking at my own self on who are you really? what is it that you need? What is it that you do in this world? So there's really ripping everything off for the true self to show. So in the yogi world, we call this Satchitananda. So the really true self, who is it? And it's in this moment, in the descent, that usually this comes through. And often it happens with such longing, and it happens with such passion, that when the true self emerges, there's the power also emerging of the person in there. And it doesn't matter anymore what the world thinks. It doesn't, I have nothing to prove to anybody. I have no certain mold to be in, to fit in anybody's, anywhere. So when the descent is so strong and that ripping off is so clear, then that creates the power back to the ascension. That's where really the higher self comes through and merges for creating back that path into deep purpose.
Say again what her name is.
Inanna.
Inanna. Thank you.
Inanna's Descent to the Underworld. You can find a huge book about it. You can even listen to YouTube videos about her story. I would highly recommend it.
Thanks.
And see how that works in your own life also. And she was the goddess of the heavens. So for her to go in the underworld is like, whoa, it means total destruction of everything up there. But yeah, you can look into the story and where the wisdom was and what happened when she was not there, how she was tricked to stay into the underworld, and how she had that wisdom of her role as the goddess of the earth to come back and the heavens. So this is actually quite literally phase number 5 from the heroine's journey. It's really the initiation and the descent into the goddess. And to link it back to our personal journeys and our personal stories, also in a way, if any of you read tarot or have done that, there's like the whole deck of cards, and then the 0 card is the Fool. So it's the one who goes on the journey but has like a little dog protecting him, but really doesn't have anything, just a small bag. So really this archetypal story is everywhere. There's always that leaving that innocence, walking out of that and then into all of this, and then reaching some stage where we learn we have that medicine that belongs to us, and how we learn to integrate that in our ascension. So in our personal human self life, this would be where, let's say, the dependent child becomes a creative and a confident adult, and also an enlightened individual. And one step further into implementing this is that this enlightened individual becomes a goddess, and she becomes an enlightened and wise elder. So here is a very beautiful cycle of what a heroine's journey can more or less take us to. And here we come to stage number 6, and that is where, am I going too fast? Okay, any questions so far? Okay, cool. We'll have some questions and some sharings, but just tuning in that everything's okay. Cool. Heroines, let's go. All right, so we're at step number 6, and that's where the heroine wants to urgently, she has that yearning to reconnect and to rekindle with her feminine. And so she wants to, but she can't really. And often what I did in my own life was I literally went back home. And I was like, oh, I'm not the same anymore. so there is that urge to reconnect. So either you physically go back to your home, or you physically try to connect with your mother, or to that feminine value. And what happens is that you have realized that you've outgrown, you have realized that you have changed. And actually this heals the mother wound, because you very consciously come back, but you have taken your own values for your own self. And then you can look into what values it is that your family and your mother gives. And you can decide actually that, okay, this one resonates with me, this one resonates with me, but this and this and this not. So to make this very conscious decision actually heals that mother-daughter complex. And then the heroine starts to realize also that her perspective for her own life has changed, and it's a lot of power in there. It's a lot of power to really know yourself at this moment, and as you are ascending, and to look back at the things that you thought that you're never going to look back into, and to look straight in the eye and show your true self and continue on the journey. So the healing of the feminine here happens, and then the heroine continues to heal the masculine too, because earlier she felt that all the success that she did and all these masculine ways and values that she took betrayed her when she was feeling a huge sense of spiritual loss. She went so much into it that her nurturing and her slowing down and her being was taken away from her. So she looks again into rekindling that betrayal with the masculine. And I can read a small thing about this from the book, which says, the heroine takes back her negative projections on the men in her life. This involves identifying the parts of herself that have ignored her health and feelings, refused to accept her limits, told her to tough it out, and never let her rest. It also involves becoming aware of the positive aspect of her masculine nature that helps her to speak her truth and her own authority. So then very consciously she can decide. So it's really getting out of the victim mode. And women and men, I mean, people generally tend to do that a lot, and maybe intentionally or not, but in this part, you can really feel victimized by your own way, by your own decisions and betrayal. So coming back into this and reweaving it actually is a very powerful step. And the reason is that these archetypal stories can also be the inner masculine and the inner feminine. So at this stage in the Disney stories is when the prince comes and kisses Snow White, opens the glass and wakes her up. I mean, the prince comes and kisses Sleeping Beauty and wakes her up. When the masculine comes with the shoe for Cinderella, and then there is that merging. So it's that reconnection of the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine. And that then takes us to the final stage, which is the eighth stage, which is the merging of the masculine and the feminine. So that's the divine union, for example. The divine union on its own is a beautiful archetypal story about humans and the fairies, and also the priestesses and the kings. So every step is already a powerful step. And this union means that there's the very strong rebirth that has happened. And there's the moving, for example, the heroines in the Disney movies, what they do is then at this step, they leave their small, old, poor houses, and then they become queens and they become princesses and they live in huge castles. So there's really that boom, full abundance of leaving the small life behind and really owning your place in the throne. And so at this stage, then the heroine really accepts her masculine and accepts her feminine, and knows then that part of the duality, accepting the duality and accepting the oneness, and knowing what energy to play when. So in my own personal journey, for example, when I actually left home and got a few slams on my face, doing my own journey, going into the full warriorist mode. I can do this. I don't need anybody to tell me how to do things. So I had discovered those, but it was quite a difficult journey. I was also more in my masculine. I even walked more masculine. I even dressed more masculine. Um, my teacher used to tell me, why do you speak like a rapper? So I was really like very much projecting that, but it was because I was protecting my feminine and I didn't want to be seen as vulnerable. So I had the whole, yeah, I can do this. And indeed, I was doing this until bam, the things I was doing wasn't working for me anymore. And I was so confused. It's like, okay, where do I make my way out of this? And generally, that's the trigger for most of us to say, okay, time to go inwards. And then indeed, I was a little bit in that depressed situation where the people around me wouldn't understand. And then it makes it even worse because it's generally more taboo and it's not really accepted. So I had to literally hide myself from hiding myself. And then here is where I was learning, like, even if I didn't have anything anymore, I just had the acknowledgement of who I really am. And then the teachers came. And actually, most of the teachers from my work are women so far. So I'm like, yes, not that I'm not looking for, not that I'm picking them out, but it just happened to be so. And that is great. And it takes me then back into this moment. And now I can I I learn how to do and I learn how to be, and I learn that okay, this one needs more of the masculine, so I'll go into that, but then I will also can tune into my body when I need more of the nurturance, then I can do that too. So this is actually very simply said, but it comes in whatever way it comes. So, long story short, this is the heroine's journey. And it can come to you at any moment of your life, and it can come to you more than once. So, when the journey starts, if we're unconscious about it, we would be in the, oh no, things are falling apart again. Oh no, boom, 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 boom. If we are conscious about it, then which is what I started learning, when they fall again, it's like, okay, it's starting. All right, cool. Something good is gonna come out of it. Let's go. And this actually, getting to know the heroine's journey brought me much freedom and peace with the little bits of rebellion I did growing up, because I carried so much shame and guilt on hurting this family member and that family member and being such a selfish or bad child to not follow the rules, but to still have that fire and to do it and recognize that this is actually just how it is. The journey brings much peace in it. um, and yeah, it's it's always that there's that magic inside you, and so wherever there's most resistance is most potential, and it's the magic that the really the diamond inside of us is not just, oh yeah, I'm just gonna go, I'm gonna open that closet and I'm gonna take my diamond out. No, it really needs all that journey to reach into that diamond. So it's actually a beautiful journey. And I would actually love to hear if some of you resonate with this story or can had some kind of aha moment. And then if there's some more time, I'll share something else. What's that?
So that is like the reminder before I went into spiritual journey.
Mm-hmm.
So I started noticing things happen when I was maybe about 16. none of my family understood what spirituality is about. Everybody's kind of blinded, and it's sort of like they're living, but they're blind at the same time. So there's often things come and crashing down. So I started meeting a couple of people who has giving me a hint about what's going on in their life, and they give advices. They share some spaces as well, some wisdom. But there's a lot of things that you end up have to going through. You will have to go through alone by the end of the day, and it happens to me a couple of times that I had to remind myself that I was not equipped with the wisdom that I needed at that point of time. So I started giving myself a bit of a mark to always remind me of the things that happen and be like, oh, this feels like at that time again. I shouldn't do this thing that I used to do. I should keep going. I should keep trying, and try not to go down to that moment where when it hits hard rock bottom, I will get immediately negative into everything, and that's what's causing all the wall kind of like crumbling down. So this is like my sharing to you, Sandi, and I'm glad that I met you actually.
Thank you for sharing your story. If I start sharing the stories of my tattoos and indeed all these parts of my journeys, we're gonna have to make another Zoom call for then. Thank you so much, Astrid, for sharing. It's indeed wonderful to recognize the strength that we have when we go into the darkness and who we really are.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Please continue.
Would anybody like to share something?
Yeah, I only just to reconfirm this journey. It is like that. All I have to say, it is like that. At least it was like that in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
For me,
a microphone, that's awesome.
yeah, for me it's the same, like Heidrun. Yeah, it's like you told us. Yeah, nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
To speak it out.
Yes. We have around 15 minutes still. So actually, if you don't mind, I'll do a quick exercise with you. Maybe you can get some kind of clarity from it, maybe not. Do you all have a piece of paper that's near you? Just a pen and a paper? Okay. So it could be that some of you know what's gonna come, or some of you can have some revelation. And if you can just split it then into 4 squares. So just wait for everybody to.
You mean like holding it? Hello,
No,
Sandi.
no. Hi.
Holding it? No.
Just draw a line like that and make 4 squares.
Okay.
And on the first square, you can write this year.
Next one.
And the second square next to it is the past 5 years. And the third square is the past 10 years. And I'll give you a few moments where you can tune and write your biggest challenges in those times. So even if it's the same challenge that comes back, just write your challenges that came to you in these parts of your life. We'll have around 4 minutes for that. So the biggest challenges or the biggest challenging experiences. Okay, 2 more minutes. Okay, you can slowly finish up whatever it is that you're writing. And you can look back into these 3 squares and see if there's any parallel theme or anything quite transformative for you there. So circle the most important parts of those experiences or these words that made you who you are today. Is that clear for everybody? And then when you do that, in the 4th square that is still empty, that one, the title is My Strengths. So if you can write some strengths from you, whether you knew them or whether you learned them through these challenging and difficult times, you can write them in the box. a few moments to give some time for the sisters. And then there's one more thing to write, which is if you can turn the paper around and write my greatest gift is, and that word is something from your strength or something you know, what is inside you, what is your medicine, what is your magic, what is your strength, what is your gift. It could be a gift for yourself, for your own journey, or it could be a gift that is yours to share for others on their own journeys.
Thank you, my love, for that.
Mm-hmm. And I would love to hear some of them. Okay, great. So what we can do then, if you are, whether you would, if you would like to share or not. So a beautiful thing of women is sharing connection, sisterhood, wisdom. And when we have our heroine's journey is to share this journey for the mere fact of sharing it in service to others. And this sharing is part of the magic. So if we can go around then and say, you can say your name and you can say my greatest gift to give is, and you can tell us whatever gift is that has come from your vulnerabilities or challenges or really whatever. Go.
So we just jump up and say it?
Yes. Unmute yourself or just jump up.
Just jump up. So I'm Barbara, and my greatest gift is my sensibility. Yes. And it's also my greatest challenge throughout the years, of course. Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you, sister.
Okay, I'm gonna go next. My name is Astrid, and my greatest gift that I can give to people is my full attention and listen.
Okay.
My name is Heidrun, and my greatest gift is there is always a way forward.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Millie, and my greatest gift is joy. And this come from my life force energy. For me, no? My joy come from this moment of life force.
Thank you.
So my name is Ruth, and my greatest gift is my caring and perseverance.
My name is Magdalena, and my greatest gift is my vulnerability.
My name is Fiona, and my greatest gift is my spiritual connection.
My name is Diana, and my greatest gift is to love myself and follow my intuition. Intuition.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Susie, and my greatest gift is the ability to see the point in the heart in all the hardest time of life. Thanks.
My name is Mira, and my greatest gift is also perseverance and heart vibration, pure heart vibration.
Ooh. My name is Sandi, and my greatest gift is my compassion, my strength, and my vulnerabilities. Hi. And this brings us to closing. Thank you so much for your beautiful sharing. Hearing your voice, your names makes my heart flutter. Can feel every one of you. Thank you so much. I hope you can get some good teachings and insights today, and have a beautiful rest of the evening. Much love to you all.
Thank you,
Much love.
my
Thank
sister.
you.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Yes.
And
Thank you.